Monday, nakausap po natin si Tracy Wilen-Daugenti kung saan pinag-usapan namin and we discussed some of her tips on jobs for at-home women. She is an author, she is a speaker, and she's very credible when it comes to employment issues. And last Monday as well, she talked about some Encore careers para naman dun sa mga 50 and over na naghahanap pa rin ng trabaho. Here it is. Tracy, let's talk to people that are 50 and over. Maybe they just got laid off or you know, mostly they just got laid off, but they don't want to stop working just yet, and they're having a difficult time looking for a job. Is there hope?
Oh, absolutely, and I think people need to look at that perspective that don't stop working at 50, because you probably will be living to 100,
right?
Which means you have 50
right.
more years to
support yourself. Yes,
exactly,
right.
Exactly. So I encourage people to think about a couple of things. One is age appropriateness of industries that you pursue. So industries such as universities, government, healthcare, public sector, non-for-profit, these industries embrace people who are more seasoned in age, which is going to be much easier for people than if they go to a young high-tech firm.
Let's talk about the openness of somebody like that as well to work. Does it have to be, let's say an engineer gets laid off and he's an engineer and he has all these skills, but it's difficult to enter as an engineer to a company when you're 50 and above. What would you suggest to those people?
Absolutely, and I can feel for that exactly. I think if you're an engineer and an expert, one is I would think about consulting. And there are firms out there for seasoned executives, not just temp to hire, that can help you find part-time or consulting jobs, or even boutique consulting firms that specialize in an area. And let's face it, people respect older people in consulting roles.
Right, exactly.
Just as you had mentioned on previous shows about experience versus age, people really look up to people with experience. So that's what I would encourage.
And this comes into with your second advice, which is, do you have a skill or expertise? Because you need to capitalize on that no matter what age.
Absolutely. So I encourage people to sit down. Do you have a skill, web design, accounting, something very tangible that you can offer or even make money on? Or are you an expert, such as in a firm? Were you an HR expert, a marketing expert, a finance expert, a management expert? Then you may want to think about a consulting path, so that once you understand what you can offer, then you can figure out how to package it.
And here's another thing, you would think that people know about this already. Reconnect with previous managers.
Absolutely. I'm going to tell you a quick story. I just got a phone call from a colleague of mine who got rehired in her early 60s by a previous manager who was late 60s, and she had been, the younger woman at 61, had been out of work for 22 years.
Oh, my goodness.
So what did she do is her husband lost his job, and he also had medical issues, and she had to work. And she reached out to all the old managers and employees that she used to work with. This woman remembered her and said, you know what, it has been 22 years. I'm going to try you out in a temp role, contract. If it works out, we'll try another one. It did, and she just got a full-time offer.
Oh, congratulations.
And I will remind you, age appropriateness, it was a large, prestigious university that had many people working there in their 60s and 70s.
Such a great story. I wanted to touch on what you said. She was willing to work as a temp first just to prove yourself.
Absolutely.
And I think this is good advice for people out there.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of firms. You can go to the Manpowers, to the Career Builders, in different temp, temp to perm is what they call it, where you take a temporary job, you try it out, you move around different firms, build up skills, get to know people, and then you may get that permanent liaison offer.
Do we have numbers on how many of these people start out as STEMs and then they get hired as regular employees?
So it varies by industry and by firm, but I can tell you today that 1 out of 3 Americans are working as a part-time or freelance. So that's about 40 million people in the United States. So it is a real job, it is a real career path, and many people make this into something called a portfolio career, where you have a collection of part-time jobs. So don't snub your nose at part-time.
Right, exactly. And Tracy, the last Tracy tip for the day is resources, regional. What do you mean by that?
Absolutely. So there are firms, and when I did a search, different firms came up in regional areas, like the Patina Solutions in Wisconsin and FlexExec. Here's what you do. Type into Google part-time executive jobs. so that you can see what firms really specialize in that more seasoned adult type of executive role rather than just the administrative roles.
Right, or rather than sticking to, let's say, Los Angeles area or California area, you know, widen your search.
That's right, and I'll give one last idea for people because I just read about it and it sounds like a lot of fun. If you're an executive and you are retiring and trying to figure out Encore career and retirement, people actually work on cruise liners, not as the staff, but as experts. And they teach, and in exchange, they get a little room and board and a little pay. And it sounds like a very interesting place. So you can go to the cruise liners, and then you get your travel in, too.
Exactly. That sounds like a fun job.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. As always, a wealth of information, great practical advice for our viewers.
Thank you, Janelle.